Totally. That's a perfect segue. So let's geek out about some space stuff that's happening right now. Is there anything that's happened recently that like has just completely blown you away in anything that's launched or anything
Well,
like
I'll
that?
tell you, I'm surprised at how like actually archaic some of our infrastructure is. So I actually normally look and I'm like, really? True story. I actually told Jordan that I thought relativity was printing too slow. I can't believe I said that, but
Oh, you're
I'm like, it
hilarious.
could be faster. I don't know. That's the non-engineer.
I love it.
But you know, I've all honestly, I'm fascinated that our information travels overseas through subsea cables. Like,
Mm,
just even how the internet works is fascinating to me.
yeah.
And I'm like, how in the world? Even our office is in Malibu, and like our, we don't even have signal there. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just crazy. So I'm excited to see like critical infrastructure catch up. I know that
Mm.
doesn't sound as like sci-fi as like I really
It's realistic.
could go, but
Yeah.
realistically, it is going to take a long time.
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
that's the hurdle that everything's going
yeah,
to hit if we don't figure it out and all this progress just happens all of a sudden.
totally.
Yeah.
And with what's next, I'm like, man, switching to digital was easy, but
Mm.
like every company becoming a robotics company. You know, hard tech is hard
Yeah.
and requires insane resources. It
Mm.
requires latency issues to be fixed. It requires like just insane connectivity and hardware,
Right.
storage, etc. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, I'm excited to see changes there. For years, honestly, I've been like losing sleep about GPS, but
How so? Just the
just Google
what?
it.
Just
Just
Google it. Okay.
Google like 20. I mean, there have been articles, for the last 10 years on, the how behind GPS is and
Mm.
some of the risks with current infrastructure, and it's
Mm.
terrifying actually. And so I'm really excited to see advancement in
Mm.
GPS. But then I just love like I think space tech in general. Jordan and I sometimes think a little differently on it, as I think more on the critical infrastructure side.
Mm.
But also I get super excited about like our company Inversion Space that we've invested, not our company, but a company we invested in.
Mm.
They're doing low cost reentry capsules. Like I mean, that kind of stuff is just
Beautiful.
so neat.
Yeah.
When you think of the possibilities, I'm like, how cool is that?
Yeah. Well, I
What about
mean,
you? What are
what am I
you,
excited?
yeah, what's that? And you can go sci-fi or not.
Oh, well, thank you for the question. I appreciate that. Um, I've been really obsessed lately with what the first people in the first 50 years of living in space are going to have to deal with.
Like
And like what
radiation.
skills, but even like let's say we get that right. Let's say we get a spacecraft that works.
Okay.
Like how skillful are you going to have to be to troubleshoot while you're up there? Like if you're out there for a 5-year mission, like you're not
And
going to
is
be
it
able to
Tony Stark
communicate.
style where you have like Jarvis?
Yeah, probably. I think it would have to be. I actually think about you guys sometimes where I'm like, okay, like after launch, post launch, like what do you do? Like what is that going to look like? And there's going to having an artificial intelligence on board that will be able to keep life systems running, troubleshoot faster than you're going to be able to, and then
Yeah.
you're there to tweak and do the other manual stuff. That's the thing that I've really been captured by.
What's interesting though is like as a kid, never would I imagined my granddad was telling a story the other day of about my nephew and said
Mm,
that they were talking about his times tables. And my nephew was, he was doing his timetables, whatever. And then my granddad said, okay, what is uh 36 times 36? I'm going to use that example. And William goes, hey, Alexa, what's 36 times 36? And I was like, that's crazy. Like when I think
yeah,
about that, I'm like, as a kid, that would have been insane to me, to
yeah,
be able to do that.
yeah,
So when I think, gosh, yeah, especially once infrastructure catches up. But
yeah.
yeah, where would you go in space if you could like go anywhere?
If I could go anywhere, I don't know. I think the moon is extremely like if you're gonna go first to someplace, I think the moon's great. It's also a nice trip back. It's also kind of I'm just trying to make sure I have a way back. That's pretty easy
Yeah,
and
that's fair.
possible. But
Who
no,
would you
the
go
moon would
with
be great.
if
Who'd I
if
go
you had
with?
yeah, if you had to go if you could
Hmm.
only go with one other person, who would you go with?
Oh, I would go with my girlfriend Sarah. Absolutely. She's also a
Sweet.
space nerd, um, and we would geek out about a lot of the science stuff that we would just the experience. We both
I love
were
it.
really excited about it
If you
growing up.
got to walk on the moon, who would get to step out of the capsule first?
Ooh, I think I'd have to give it to her. Yeah, have her go
That's so
first. Yeah,
sweet.
yeah. I would make
I
some
love that.
big obnoxious noise and try and take the moment afterwards. But yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
like jump over. No,
Some big, long speech probably. Yeah.
I
No.
love it. I love it. No, that's so fun. I know. Isn't it wild to think that like, I mean, already space flight is becoming easier and low cost. It's
It
kind of
is.
wild.
It's crazy, and I'm super excited for like the whole reusability thing. When I was in school, was not at all a reality, and now it's going to happen.
Oh yeah.
All spacecraft are going to be reusable from now on, and to think that that's like the big jump that we've made in 10 years. Like to your point of the infrastructure, it's still stuck in that post shuttle era. Like
Hmm.
we really everything is still it was all of the funding was at a standstill from what I can tell from back then. Everything just kind of screeched to a halt, and we kept using the tech that we had from before. The Soyuz was the thing
Yep.
taking all the humans up.
Yep.
So yeah, I think there's going to be like Blue Origin's orbital reef is an interesting idea. You know, a conglomerate of companies trying to put together something that makes a financial case for space stations. I think that's good.
Yep.
I think it's going to be 15 years if they get it up there before it like really kicks off. But there's going to be a lot of things that'll get tested out there. I think.
It's so cool. Every time I think about it, I'm like, ooh. And
Yeah.
gosh, I hope it happens sooner than later,
Yeah.
especially on the infrastructure side, because none of these
Totally.
cool things can happen if everything else doesn't catch up.
No, absolutely not. Yeah, and we've there's been a struggle for resources lately,
Yeah,
like even
supply
just
chain stuff
launches.
is
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is the worst logistical time.
mhm,
All of this stuff to happen. Does
is
something
wild.
like yeah, does something like SpaceX's Starship, Starlink, the constellations, does that from an infrastructure perspective, what are your thoughts?
It doesn't solve all of our problems. I'll just say that.
Okay, absolutely. Yeah.
And I have several predictions on and ideas on how that could be adjusted. I won't go too far into it because we'll be here all day.
I mean, this is the place.
But I don't think
Fair.
that's not our solution for everything that we need
Yeah.
fixed at the moment. But it certainly doesn't hurt.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan. I'm
Okay.
definitely a fan.
Do you have any ideas for I guess if you had to pick one thing in the infrastructure that you think would be like the most influential, because I think it's an important topic.
Gosh, and infrastructure just in general, there are too many things.
What's a major, I don't want to say necessarily a major weakness, but like what could you do today that could make a big difference?
Well, even just fixing GPS
Okay.
and making sure that time synchronization and everything is rock solid.
That's
And I know a
important.
lot of people are working on that. So,
Yeah.
but people don't realize. People are like, "Oh, your Google Maps wouldn't work," and I'm like, "Yeah." And bank transactions can't happen. Like so many other things. Like
Yeah.
everything runs on GPS.
Oh,
So
we're
it's
all so used to
wild.
having even just our basic everyday lifestyle would be completely halted if it
Oh,
crashed.
yeah, it's unbelievable, and
People would be lost.
it keeps me up at night. So maybe don't Google.
Okay.
Um, don't
Okay.
do it. Don't go down that rabbit hole. You'll never sleep again.